Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're back to working on the mini bike. In this episode we're going to make a new jack shaft, or an axle out of this 3/4 inch rod, because this one's all bent up and not right. We'll take this seat here and we're going to cut it and fit it to the body right here. It already fits pretty well, we're just going to trim it a little and make it fit. We're also going to add a twist grip, which we have down on the floor right there. Put the sprocket and brake disc on, and kind of tie up a few things before we tackle the intake and the exhaust boot. But let's get to it. Let's start cutting up this 3/4 inch shaft and make it into an axle. Let's get to it. There we go. We got the tire all filled up. We're going to do see, this is our old axle right here with all the not lined up holes. What we're going to do is we're going to take this axle. There's this long shaft that could be an axle. We're going to use a Sharpie and we're going to measure the length of this shaft to this shaft and just add a little bit on. So make sure to have a Sharpie when you do this, if you ever want to try to do what I'm doing, or you're fabricating with this kind of stuff. Line them up. So I'm going to add about ½ inch more. So I'll do that right there. So you can see my mark I made. So you're just going to go around, holding it in a steady position, marking it, and boom. It's marked where we're supposed to cut it. Now after we cut it, what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to line the wheel up in the middle of the shaft. So on both ends of it. And always cut extra. You want to cut extra because then you can trim it off later, right? So always get the wheel lined up in the middle, and then you're going to figure out where your bearings go and then where the end sprockets and the shafts go. But first, let's cut this end of the shaft, so let's get to that, and then we'll proceed to mark the rest of it and drill. Alright, so before we do the time up real quick, I want to inform you on how to properly drill. So first we're going to pick the right drill bit. For me, I need a 1/4 inch drill bit. So I'm going to pick one out of it. I'm going to make sure to tightly put it in the drill because we don't want slippage, because it could snap the drill bit or something bad like that could happen. Next, whenever you're drilling, use lubricant. I usually use like a WD-40 or a tiny bit of oil, but make sure to lubricate drill bits because they will go bad, and trust me, drill bits are not fun to buy. They can get expensive. So before we lubricate, we're going to make a little, we're going to mark it where it is. We're going to put a little drill dent. We're going to get it. See, we're going to make a nice little dent to drill onto. A little bit more. See? Right there. Now I'm going to proceed to do the same thing with the other marker spot. Let's see, it's great. I'm going to check just in case I drilled the right spot. If it's lined up. Just in case, we're gonna re-sharpie this. Always double check your stuff. That way you won't mess up the first time and you don't have to redo it. And that way it works out and you don't have to come back to it in the future. So now we're gonna make the nice little indent on the other side. I got my Sharpie mark here. Now as you can tell, I drilled a little bit high on this side, meaning I'll have to go a little high on the other spot. But that's okay, as long as you know what you're doing. We're going to take it and we're going to drill right there. Alright, so now, after you proceeded to put those little dents in there, clamp it in really tight, drill it, and don't forget to lubricate with WD-40 or any other type of lubrication that's not toxic for your lungs. So let's start to get to drilling out these holes and putting on the axle. Alright, so we just got this axle all cleaned up and done. Now we're going to throw it in here and test it. If they don't perfectly line up, we can drill them out a little, but then again, you never know. So we're going to throw it in this way. I can't remember which way I put it in, so make sure to line up the holes correctly. I got some bolts over here we can drill in quick. I don't know if they'll fit, but might be too long. That one just slid in, which is good. We want them to just slide in with no problems. If it's really hard to put in, it's a little bit harder. I'm just gonna tighten up this bolt quick. Not all the way, don't really tighten it, just finger tight, really. Looks like on the other side, we gotta do a little bit of boring, which, you know what happens, you gotta drill them out sometimes, they're never straight. So, because if I take it, and I see, I can't even throw it in on this side, so I must have drilled it wrong. It's not even straight in there. My gosh, how bad did I drill it? Alright, so we did get the axle to fit on there after a little bit of just trimming, and it's really tight now. There's no slop. So let's throw it on the mini bike. We will have to drill the sprocket mount, or sprocket hole, but we can do it while it's on the mini bike. So let's get over to the mini bike and start putting on the axle. Alright, so I do have to grab the wheel from over on the workbench, but here's the bike. I wanted to show you the seat quick before we get to the wheel. See the seat? I have to trim the panels or the panels underneath it because they're sitting up too high. But it slides into the frame perfectly. There's two bolting mounts. We're gonna trim it like up here, just round like a normal seat. That way it's free and we have a nice, comfortable dirt bike seat for our mini bike because, well, dirt bike seats are already pretty tough and reliable, so might as well use one of them and just trim it up a little. So let's throw on this axle real quick and everything and start drilling there, and then we'll work on the seat. And let's get to it. Alright, so here's our brake disc. These are not the bolts we're going to use. We're going to adapt the hub a little bit, drill some new holes, but that's for another video. This just, see, it's not supposed to go on this side, but it'll just go on the outside like that. So it slides on perfectly on this side, no worries. And then we'll just tighten down the bolt, or find some set screws, and that'll be set. Now onto the sprocket side. We got the sprocket, so we're just going to slip it on right here. See, pretty much that. It looks like the chain rubs a tiniest bit up here, but that's from one of my welds. So if I just grind that down, no worries. So let's get to drilling the hole right here for this sprocket. And after that, we'll throw in the throttle and I'll show you guys the chain. We'll have to make a chain tensioner, but we'll throw on the throttle right after we drill the hole for this. And yeah, let's get to it and see how much we can get done today. It's about 90 degrees out, so it's a little hot for this weather to be working, but you know, gotta work on my machines. I enjoy it. So let's get to working on this, and I'll see you after the time lapse. All right, so we just drilled the hole, so we're gonna throw on the sprocket and maybe have a little burr, so we're just gonna help it with tapping it on. Not too hard, we don't want to break the shaft. Now we're gonna turn it appropriately to where the hole is. I'll give you a little bit better camera angle here. See it? Right there. Now we have this cute little bolt here. It's nothing big. We're just gonna pop it in. A little friction, but that's good. There we go, we got that all in. So how we're gonna tighten it is, we have this wing nut here, nothing special. This is a wing nut. We're gonna take it and we're gonna fit it to the end of it like this. And we're gonna use this tool right here to tighten it while hooking the wing nut. Until we can just tighten the wing nut fully on. Make sure to properly get the wing nut on. You don't want to ruin the threads on this bolt. You may be like, oh, it's not going to hold that strong. Well, that's okay. It's just a temporary bolt until I can buy a new MA bolt, because M8 bolts are very strong. Before we do that, we're going to give it a little tap again. Then tighten it. It's okay if this bolt snaps. It's only temporary. Now you're probably wondering, like, why do I have slack like this? See that? That's not good. Well, I'm going to make something to put inside of the shaft. That way it won't wiggle like that. Or maybe put like a little tack on it, because I can just make a new shaft if I ever need to. Plus all the bearings come off the one end. So, plus a sprocket I got for free from an old scrap snowblower. So if I ever need to get a new one, I can just replace them easily. But here we go, we got this all set up. Now here's the chain. We're probably just gonna make like a little chain like tension like right there with the spring and a skateboard wheel or something like that. Skateboard wheels actually work really well on projects. But next up we're gonna do is we're gonna throw on the twist throttle and then work on the seat. So let's get to it. All right, so we got this old twist grip here we're gonna throw on. This is from an old Italian dirt bike. It's a TM300 twist grip. Got it from a buddy of mine. So we're gonna use the same tool we just tightened that rear axle sprocket bolt on, and we're gonna push it on all the way. And now we're gonna tighten it. Make sure to have these two lined up at the top. That way it's like a normal dirt bike throttle. You want to go until you get that weird squeaky sound. Like that. That's the sound you're going to get. Yep. So we have our throttle set up here. Pretty much. And then we have our kill switch built right into it, actually. See? The kill switch is sitting right next to it. So when you're using it, your thumb can engage it while using the twist grip. So you can shut it off or shut it on. So it's kind of nice because it's just built right into it. Now, let's get you start cutting up that seat and making it work. Planning on doing, I got the seat right down here, I can show you guys. Here's the seat. It's an old Honda 280 seat if you didn't know. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna file, I cut these down a little bit, but we're gonna file them down a little bit more. This actually fits right into the frame, as you can see. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna marker, get in the camera here. We're gonna marker a spot about here and then we're gonna round it off. So to let you know how to cut a seat before we start doing it, always make sure to have extra fabric like this stuff, or whatever this is, extra of it, because if you cut it shorter, you can have it hanging and then you can pull it down and you can staple it on. So you can change, you can still make it work properly. Just pull and tighten until you make a seat. So let's get to cutting and let's get to cutting up the seat and making it work. Let's get to it. Alright, so as you're just watching the time lapse, we shortened down the seat here and we stapled in some new spots after pulling out all the old staples. So I got this knife here. We're going to add a little incision to the seat here because when you try to fold it, it goes like that. And I don't really want wrinkles. So I don't want wrinkles like that. So we're going to add some quick incisions in this seat here. This hurts me as much as it does to you guys, but it's for a greater good. Now I gotta cut this up. The hardest part is on the ends because it's layered. Maybe I can just rip it. Nope. Okay. Keep cutting away, I guess. There we go. Don't do this at home, please. Be safe with knives. Wear your safety, kids. Put a better one. So a staple gun, to use one of these, you push down hard, and boom. A little bit harder than that, but you know what I mean. So I'm gonna throw you guys in time lapse as I finish up that seat, and then we'll drill some spots on the mini bike and fit it on. Let's get to it. there's our seat. What do you think of it? Now it sits nice and clean up there. We're gonna have to tighten it down on the frame like this. But it's perfect because it kind of just fits over these weld spots here. And once we fully sand down everything, it'll just sit tight to that. But that will be in the next video, guys. I hope you enjoyed doing the axle, the throttle, and the seat on the mini bike project today. Thank you for 83 subscribers. So glad you guys can enjoy and watch my videos. And I'll see you guys next video. Have a good one.